Hello, and welcome to Science for Sleep, where curiosity lulls in silence and science is told in the breath of dreams. Tonight, you don't need to remember anything. Just relax and let your mind drift. We'll begin with a whisper of danger, not the kind that jumps out at you, but the kind that waits quietly. Maybe it's in a vial, maybe it's in the stars, or maybe it's something you carry with you. You see, when most people think of danger, they imagine something loud, fast, dramatic, glowing red. But in the great symphony of the universe, the most dangerous things often hum so softly you'd never notice. Close your eyes. Imagine you're in a museum, except it's floating in space. There's no gravity, no sound, no alarms, just display cases gently lit inside each one. Something that could end you or everything you know. One is glowing faintly, another is completely dark. One looks like a metal pebble, another just a patch of air. You float past the displays and your breath is steady. Tonight, we're not running from anything. We're drifting through. And perhaps the strangest thing of all is that most of these substances weren't made with malice. They just are. They exist. And in that existence, they hold the potential to change everything. Let's pause at one display. The plaque is blank. There's nothing inside, just emptiness behind glass. But somehow, it feels heavier than the others, like it's watching back. Danger doesn't need a heartbeat. It just needs possibility. This is where your mind begins to wander. You ask, what makes something truly dangerous? Is it how fast it works? How invisible it is? How unavoidable? Or maybe it's how easily it lets you forget that it's even there. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly, like air escaping a sealed chamber. Even air can be dangerous, you know. But we'll get to that. For now, drift with this idea. Danger is not always what we fear. Sometimes it's what we trust, what we assume will never change. A little joke for you. Danger is just normal, with a really good poker face. Let your mind relax. Picture a snowflake falling onto a sleeping volcano. That's what this story will be, like slow, silent, and full of pressure hidden beneath calm. You might not feel the shift, but it's there. Here's a soft thought. The universe isn't trying to kill you. It just doesn't really care if you survive. And in that indifference, there are beautiful, terrifying things. There's a substance out there so toxic that a pinhead of it can kill millions. Another so dense that if you held it, it would fall through the earth. And one, only theoretical, that could rewrite the fabric of everything. But you'll never hear them coming. A brief image, you're lying in a grassy field under the stars. A comet passes slowly overhead. You smile, you feel safe, and yet, 40,000 years ago, another rock just like it may have ended, a species of tiny marsupials. They didn't see it coming either. But this isn't about fear. This is about wonder. Because there's something beautiful about knowing how strange, how powerful, how mysterious the universe isn't, still being here, still breathing, still dreaming. That's the gift, isn't it? That you, of all things, can sleep in a world made of particles that don't care if you do. Another gentle joke for the road. If the universe is out to get you, it's doing a really slow job of it. So tonight, we'll meet each of these dangers with calm. We'll float past plutonium and botulinum. We'll peek at black holes and whisper around antimatter. We'll sit next to a neutron star and not say a word, because they're not here to scare you. They're here to remind you how extraordinary it is to simply be safe. The blanket over you now, that's more than comfort. It's a soft shield. The danger stays in the museum tonight. And you? You get to visit without ever touching the glass. Let the weight of the day fall away. Your heartbeat slows, like the ticking of a watch you've placed gently on the bedside table. We'll begin with something familiar next time. Something silver, something solid, something you could hold in your hand if you were brave enough. But for now, rest. The museum floats on, still weightless, still silent. You drift past the first display and into a dimmer corridor roan with fewer answers and more questions. And here, the air itself seems to pause, as if even the molecules are listening. Or maybe they're wondering, like you are, what do we mean when we say something is dangerous? It's such a heavy word. It clings to warning labels, drips from headlines, hides under your bed when you're 5. But tonight, it's floating, barely anchored. No need to run from it, just observe. Danger, in your world, usually has a soundtrack. Sirens, screaming, clashing cymbals in a thriller movie. But in the deeper parts of the universe, danger doesn't shout. It whispers. It waits. It often doesn't care if you notice. So, as your breath slows and your limbs soften into the mattress, let's ask gently, what makes something the most dangerous? You might think of how fast it can kill, or how many it can reach, or how impossible it is to stop. But what about something so quiet you don't even know it's there? Here's a soft story. There's a species of frog so poisonous that touching it could end your life. It doesn't bite. It doesn't move fast. It just sits in the rainforest, dressed in vibrant yellow, as if it knows no one dares mess with it. Now imagine something more terrifying. A frog that doesn't look dangerous. One that's grey, small, kind of shy. But inside it, a substance that rearranges your proteins just by being near. Now that's sneaky. That's the type of danger we'll get close to. Tonight, not loud or aggressive, but subtle, elegant, and, in its own strange way, beautiful. The universe doesn't really deal in villains. It deals in possibilities. And some of those possibilities are so strange, so specific, that they become threats by default. A drifting atom here, a quantum field there, a single protein misfolded in the dark. Danger isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's mathematical. Now think about the danger of not knowing. Imagine a substance you've never heard of. It's not in your fridge, not in your bloodstream, but one accidental synthesis, one bad idea, and suddenly it exists. And it works too well. There's a soft irony in the fact that the most dangerous substances usually come from us. We find them, build them, refine them. We say, let's see what happens if, and then someone has to clean up the consequences. Here's a gentle joke. Science is just humanity's way of poking the universe and saying, oops. But in your mind tonight, we're not here to panic. We're just here to wander. So float with the idea of danger as potential. Not promise, not punishment. Just potential, waiting in the wings. You're drifting now between molecules. Zoom in close, and atoms look like empty space. Zoom closer, and they don't even have shape-just probabilities. Now ask yourself, if the world is mostly maybe, where does certainty live? And if the most dangerous substance hasn't been found yet, could it be hiding in a maybe? Think about a lab, a researcher with a spoonful of shimmering powder, no gloves, no idea. And then, a quai disappearance, not even a scream, just an unfinished experiment and a closed door. That didn't actually happen, but it could. And that's why the danger matters not because it will happen, but because it can. Take another breath in, and as you do, imagine inhaling a possibility, not a gas, not a virus, just an idea. Ideas, after all, are their own kind of substance. And some of them are dangerous not for what they are, but for what they might become. You don't need to solve anything tonight. You don't even need to understand it all. Just let the questions settle into you like warm tea. No rush, no quiz at the end. And if you've already started to drift away, that's fine. Your subconscious is still listening, still dreaming along with us. Because here's the secret. The universe is full of things you'll never see, and that's okay. The point isn't to see every danger. It's to marvel at the fact that you've made it this far in a universe that was never required to make room for you. So many things had to go right. So many particles had to align. So many cosmic accidents had to happen in exactly the wrong or right order for you to lie here now, wrapped in comfort, listening to someone tell you stories about things that might never touch you. And yet, we wonder. We're curious. We name the things that could undo us, because we want to feel like we understand them. But here, in this floating museum of thought, you don't need understanding. Just wonder. Just quiet. Just you and the hum of what if, because the most dangerous thing isn't always out there. Sometimes it's the fear that whispers inside. But not tonight. Tonight, that whisper has been soothed. It's lying down too, next to you, yawning. And as your eyes close again, let yourself smile. Maybe the most dangerous thing in the universe is the idea that anything ever needed to be dangerous at all. You find yourself back in the museum again. This time, your feet are touching the ground, not walking, just resting there, as if the floor itself is made of something gentler than stone. A light ahead glows faintly silver, and behind the glass, a small, ordinary-looking object, just a few grams of metallic shimmer, shaped like a pebble someone might skim across a lake. The sign reads, Plutonium-239. Silent, heavy, patient. Now here's the funny thing. You could hold it. Well, technically, it would be warm in your hand, smooth, almost comforting if you didn't know what it was. But that heat isn't from kindness. It's from decay. Because even when it looks still, plutonium is quietly falling apart, like a sleepy fire, burning without a flame. And maybe that's what makes it so strange. So much power, so little noise. You've heard of it, of course. Plutonium, the ghost behind mushroom clouds, the quiet co-star in weapons that change the shape of war. But tonight, we're not talking about war. We're just here to float through the science of something unsettlingly calm. See, plutonium doesn't kill you the moment you meet it. It's no cobra, no assassin in the dark. It's patient. Its danger is in the waiting. One breath too close, one scratch, one dust speck on the tongue, and your body becomes part of a timeline, not a dramatic collapse, a slow undoing. Cells dividing the wrong way, organs forgetting their jobs, a kind of forgetting, molecular amnesia. But let's not dwell on that. Let's zoom in instead. Plutonium atoms sit heavy, heavier than uranium, heavier than most elements on the periodic table. Each nucleus, like a tightly packed orchestra of protons and neutrons, all vibrating with barely contained tension. They're not stable. They never wanted to be. They want to break apart. And when they do, they release energy not like a punch, but more like a quiet, invisible burst. 1 gram can release the same energy as a ton of TNT. Not because it wants to, but because, well, that's just what falling apart looks like at an atomic level. Now, let's have a little thought experiment. Imagine you're in a room with a marble on the floor. No threat, right? But every few minutes, that marble just vanishes, releases heat, becomes something else, then another, and another. You're not panicking. You're just aware. You're watching the room change. That's what it's like being near plutonium. You can't feel it, but your body does. Your cells do, like tiny watchmen, noticing the silent fall of marbles in the night. Let's step back. There's a darker glass case nearby. Inside it, two halves of a metal core. Smooth, harmless. Until, during an experiment decades ago, a screwdriver slipped. The halves touched, and a blue light flashed. The man standing closest smiled for a second, then said, "Uh-oh, that was the last thing he said clearly. He died soon after, one of the earliest victims of what's now called a criticality accident, a moment when atoms decide, all at once, to stop behaving. His story lives in the science books now, but tonight, it floats past you like a lantern on a still lake. You don't need to hold it. Just watch it drift. Here's something strange. Plutonium wasn't always here. It doesn't exist naturally in large quantities on Earth. It had to be made, cooked inside reactors, born from uranium like a second-generation star. So why did we make it? Because danger and curiosity often walk side by side. The irony? It wasn't just made to destroy. Plutonium has powered spacecraft too. Voyager, the probe still whispering from beyond the solar system, runs on its gentle warmth. It's been drifting for decades, humming lullabies to Saturn and Neptune, its little plutonium heart still beating in the dark. And isn't that something? The same substance that powered bombs also powers wonder. It's the soft engine of our ambition, both terrifying and tender. Let's tell one more story before we drift. In the 1950s, scientists sealed a small amount of plutonium in a steel canister and buried it deep under desert sand. They wanted to study how long it would last. Answer: longer than any building, longer than any flag. It will still be there when the English language is forgotten. And that's the final strangeness of plutonium. It's patience. It doesn't care about your clocks. It's not angry. It's not evil. It's just enduring. Like so many dangerous things, it doesn't arrive with a bang. It just sits and waits and burns quietly in the dark. So if you feel warm tonight, let it be from blankets, not isotopes. Let the glow around you be comfort, not decay. You've floated beside a silent danger and survived. That's worth something. And maybe, just maybe, the universe is reminding you that even its sharpest tools are still part of the same toolkit that made stars. Even poison has purpose. Even destruction makes room for flight. Sleep easy. The corridor turns now, not sharply, more like a dream curving inward, the way thoughts drift when you stop holding the wheel. The air here feels different. Still clean, still quiet, but denser, like something small is watching. A smaller glass display glows with a cold blue light. And inside, nothing you'd notice on your own. No metal, no shimmer, just a vial, sealed, frosted at the edges, and a label that feels exaggerated until it isn't. Botulinum toxin. You blink. You almost laugh. Isn't that the same thing people inject into their foreheads? Yes. Yes, it is. And yet, this is also the most toxic substance known to humankind. Just 1 nanogramone billionth of a gram per kilogram of body weight is enough to shut everything down. It's not flashy. It doesn't melt through floors. It doesn't make your skin bubble. Number. Botulinum is polite, efficient, quiet. It simply says to your nerves, no need to signal anymore. Let the muscles sleep. And so they do. All of them, including the ones that keep you breathing. That's the kind of danger you don't see coming. Because it doesn't scream. It just whispers stop. Let's float into a story now. Imagine a picnic, sunlight, fresh bread, a home-canned jar of green beans passed down from Grandma. Someone opens it. It looks fine, smells okay, and somewhere inside, invisible and patient, a few molecules of Clostridium botulinum begin their work. Not evil plan, just spores doing what spores do. A few hours later, someone can't move their fingers, then their face, then their lungs. That's all it takes. No anger, no magic, just biology with too much power. It's unsettling, isn't it? That the most dangerous toxin in the world might taste like vegetables. That the line between safety and silence is thinner than a single protein. But this isn't about fear. This is about elegance. Because what makes botulinum so surreal is how perfectly it fits its target. It binds to nerve endings with a kind of terrifying intimacy, not like a wrecking ball, like a skeleton key. You might say, why does such a thing even exist? And nature would shrug. It wasn't made to kill humans. It was made to help a bacteria survive. We just happened to get in the way. And still, we found a way to use it. Yes, that wrinkle-smoothing serum. It's botulinum, just a purified, precisely measured, clinically controlled whisper of it. You could say, vanity made peace with biochemistry. Or you could say, danger got a desk job. Either way, it reminds you of something. Danger isn't a villain. It's a tool. And tools can be sharpened into either scalpels or swords. Here's a small joke for the night. Botulinum might be the only thing in the world that can both paralyze your lungs and get you compliments on your forehead. That's duality for you. Let your breath soften. Feel the rhythm of your chest, the gentle rise and fall. Botulinum interrupts that rhythm. But you're still breathing, still safe, still aware. You're floating past something ancient and powerful and microscopic, and it didn't touch you. Think of how amazing that is, that we live with these things in our world, sometimes even in our kitchens, and most days we survive. We outnumber the dangers, and when we don't, we learn, we adapt, we label the jars more carefully. Maybe that's the lesson in all of this. Not that we're invincible, not that we should be afraid, but that our awareness are questions. Our curiosity keeps us floating. The world isn't gentle by default, but you are, and that's how you meet it. Now lean into this image. A scientist in a lab coat stands beside a pressure-sealed box. She's holding a vial the size of your pinky finger. Inside is enough toxin to end 10 million lives. She doesn't tremble. She smiles slightly, because it's not the danger she's focused on. It's the precision, the balance, the unbelievable fact that we've learned to hold the most dangerous things carefully. It's not recklessness that brought us here. It's the delicate dance of intelligence and humility. And maybe tonight, as you feel the weight of your blanket, you're part of that balance too. A mind curious enough to wonder, but wise enough to pause. One more breath in. Let it out, like a soft thank you to the air around you. You've just met a substance so dangerous it rewrites motion, and walked away completely still. Not because you're lucky, but because you're learning. And now we move on, because even this deadly whisper is just one voice in the quiet choir of cosmic danger. And there's still so much more to listen to. You're floating now, deeper than before. The walls of the corridor begin to fade. The museum dissolves into starlight. You're no longer looking through glass. You're drifting towards something that has no edges. No color, no weight. And yet, it holds the power to unmake anything it touches. A head, a shimmer, a flicker, a mirror that reflects nothing. This is antimatter. and it is possibly the most precise, most absolute destroyer in the universe. But don't panic, it doesn't hate you. In fact, if anything, it's your twin. You see, every particle that makes up you, protons, electrons, quark shards, a matching version with opposite charge, an anti-self, an invisible partner that could annihilate you in a heartbeat. If the two of you ever met, it sounds dramatic, but in truth it's beautiful. Two particles meet, they cancel each other out and vanish in a burst of pure energy. No screaming, no fire, just light. The quietest, cleanest end imaginable. It's poetic, really. If matter is the story, antimatter is the punctuation mark, and yet so few atoms of it exist. In all the vastness of space, in all the trillions of stars and swirling galaxies, antimatter seems rare. Why? That's the mystery. No one really knows why the universe chose matter over antimatter. At the moment of the Big Bang, both were born in equal measure twins, mirror images. But for some reason, matter stayed. And antimatter? Mostly gone. A ghost. A haunting absence. Somewhere in your sleep, your brain might whisper, what if there's a whole universe made of antimatter? Maybe. But if there is, it's out of reach. Because the moment our universe touches it, even gently, poof, annihilation. Still, scientists have made it. Tiny specks, antiprotons, positrons, trapped in electromagnetic fields at places like CERN, the Large Hadron Collider's secret underground cousin. It costs billions to make a few nanograms, and they disappear in instants. Here's a sleepy joke. Antimatter is the most expensive substance in the world. About $62 trillion per gram, and you still can't use it to pay rent. You smile just a little and let the image form. A silver briefcase, lined with velvet. Inside, a single atom of antihydrogen, floating, humming, held in magnetic stasis like a precious jewel. If that briefcase were to fail, no need for alarms. You wouldn't even hear the explosion. Because antimatter doesn't explode in the way movies tell you. It vanishes, taking whatever it touches with it. And in its place, a pulse of gamma radiation so pure it could pass through walls, skin, memory. And yet, here's the paradox. It's also the most efficient energy source ever conceived. 1 gram of antimatter plus 1 gram of matter equals more energy than a nuclear bomb. No waste, no fallout, just transformation. And so, some dream of starships. Engines powered by antimatter reactions. Silent, clean, powerful enough to reach other solar systems. We're not there yet. But one day, maybe your grandchildren's grandchildren will ride through space on vessels driven by annihilation. How very gentle that sounds. Let's stay in this thought a moment longer. You're lying on a bunk in a starship cabin. Outside the window, nebulae bloom like jellyfish in slow motion. And beneath your pillow, deep in the ship's belly, pulses a containment unit no bigger than a lunchbox. Inside, antimatter, suspended in magnetic fields, untouchable. Your heartbeat syncs with the hum of the ship. It's not danger, it's potential. And like most dangerous things in the universe, it depends on how you meet it. That's the truth of antimatter. It's not evil. It's not angry. It's just precise. It doesn't discriminate. Touch matter, and both vanish. Touch nothing, and it waits. Now bring yourself back to your room, to your blanket, to the softness of your breath. You've just floated past a substance that doesn't even exist in your world, but could still unmake it should it wander too far. And somehow, that doesn't feel frightening. It feels like a lesson that the most dangerous things aren't always the loudest. Sometimes they are elegant, perfect, almost fair. You let your eyes soften. You feel the weight of the universe balance again. One particle here, one antiparticle there, and in between, you, the brief flicker that didn't vanish, the story that kept going. Sleep. Now, you've met the ghost twin of matter, and it let you pass by untouched. You drift onward through the museum of possibility, no longer a building, really, but a thought suspended in the void, a gallery of what-ifs and please don'ts and maybe never ever es. Ahead, something glows faintly red, not from light, but from concept. This next exhibit is wrapped in layers of protective thought, like it knows it doesn't belong in a world of softness. Inside a sealed chamber, there is nothing. And yet, the label reads, Strange Matter, the seed that could end all stars. Take a breath. This one requires trust, because you won't see it. You won't hear it. You might not even believe it. But some physicists, the kind who sleep beside blackboards and dream in equations, have wondered, what if there's a kind of matter more stable than ours? Not better, not worse, just more settled. It's called strange matter, and it might be the most dangerous substance in the universe, not because it burns or bites, but because it's too perfect. Let's imagine for a moment you're a proton just, a regular old chunk of matter, ordinary, wobbly, imperfect in your own stable way. Now imagine you bump into a bit of strange matter, just a few particles nestled in the core of a dying star, and suddenly you change. You turn strange too. You become part of it, not out of violence, just preference, because strange matter is like the cooler kid in class. Once you meet it, your atoms want to be like it. Theoretically, it could trigger a conversion cascade. Touch one neutron star, and all its matter might transform, instantly, irrevocably, from ordinary to strange. And if a tiny droplet, strangelet, ever escaped, came drifting near a planet, it could turn the entire thing into itself. Not explode, just rewrite, silently, effortlessly. Imagine, mountains don't crack. They dissolve into denser mountains. Oceans thicken. Clouds drop to the ground, no longer buoyed by ordinary physics. And beneath your feet, no more molecules the way you knew them. Just strange. But don't worry. This hasn't happened. Not here, not yet. In fact, we're not even sure strange matter exists. It's a theory, a dream, a threat that may only live in chalk dust and collider fantasies. But still, it lingers in our catalogue of cosmic maybes, because in the hearts of certain collapsed stars, those too dense for joy, too tired for light, there may be a core so heavy, so compressed, that the quarks rearrange into something new. Not good, not evil, just differently true. Here's a soft joke to hold. Strange matter is like the ultimate trendsetter. Everyone wants to be me. It hums, and before you know it, everyone is. Now relax. This isn't a horror story. This is a bedtime tale about cosmic transformation, about a kind of matter that doesn't shout, just converts. Gently, completely, without permission. But maybe that's the real fear, isn't it? Not pain, not explosion, just the quiet loss of identity. The way a dream dissolves the moment you try to write it down. The way you sometimes wake up, not quite remembering your name, but still sure it meant something. Let's take another breath. Slow, even. You're still here. You're still you. Strange matter, if it exists, is a curiosity, not a prophecy. And it's very likely locked away in places we'll never reach. But the idea is enough. It reminds you how fragile normal can be, how little keeps your atoms from wanting something else. And still, you persist. You choose to remain ordinary, unstrange, beautifully imperfect. That's worth something. Let me offer a final image tonight. A distant star collapses. Its core squeezes tighter. Quarks shiver. A droplet of strange matter forms, smaller than a grain of sand. And then, nothing. No wave. No signal. Just silence. Just the slow birth of something new. And billions of light years away, you turn over in bed, reach for the pillow, and sigh. Because somewhere in this universe of shifting states and invisible thresholds, you are safe. Not because the danger isn't real, but because tonight it's far away. And you are wrapped in warmth, held by gravity, protected by distance, and guided by wonder. Let your breath fall. You've met the idea of a substance that transforms the world by being too perfect, and it let you be. Still you, still here. The path fades again, and this time there's no corridor, nor gallery, just space, open, black, and gently glowing with the pulse of things too large to name. You're floating now beside a bubble, a perfectly smooth, invisible dome that stretches out into forever. It isn't made of glass, or air, all light. It's made of possibility, and it hums with the quiet potential to end everything. This is not a thing, not a particle, not even matter. This is an idea with mass, a threat made of math. Tonight, you're drifting next to a theory, a thought some physicists whisper over coffee, then set aside so they can sleep. It's called vacuum decay. A name that sounds, well, a bit like a cleaning accident, but what it means is this. What if the universe isn't in its most stable form? What if, at the deepest level, the very fabric of reality is just a placeholder, an unstable energy state, waiting to drop, like a marble resting in a shallow dent, right beside a deeper well? If that marble ever slips, everything changes. Not in an explosion, not in fire, but in redefinition. The laws of physics themselves would be rewritten. Every atom would collapse into something else. Every constant would shift. The speed of light, redefined. The strength of gravity, new and unknowable. And all of it would happen at the speed of light. A true vacuumone with lower energy than the universe we know would spread like a bubble through space, not to hurt us, just to be more correct, and we would vanish before we even noticed. No time to run, no time to understand, just a blink. The funny part? It wouldn't feel like dying, because your neurons would be gone before they had the chance to process fear. The bubble would pass, and what remained wouldn't be you. It might not be anything. Just new rules, new emptiness, new truths. Here's the twist that makes it all wonderfully absurd. If vacuum decay ever were to happen, it could already be on its way. A single quantum fluctuation, somewhere in a far-off galaxy, might have triggered the true vacuum, and it's been expanding ever since. But don't panic. Even if that were true, you'd never know. Isn't that kind of peaceful? A danger so absolute, so silent, so instant, that it never even lets you say goodbye, like falling asleep before a storm reaches your window. or forgetting you were worried because dreaming came first. Here's a gentle joke for the road. Vacuum decay is the ultimate cosmic ghosting. The universe doesn't break up with you. It just stops being interested in existing the way you remember. Now drift deeper. Let's add a little flavor of science. See, physicists suspect the Higgs field, the thing that gives particles mass, might be at the heart of this instability. And if the numbers are right, we're in what they call a metastable state. Stable, but not perfectly. Like a Jenga tower, standing tall, but missing just one block near the bottom. It might hold for billions of years. Or a cosmic hiccup might send the whole thing down. But again, no fire, no screaming, just new rules and no one left to read them. And yet, here you are, still here, still part of the maybe. And that, in its own dreamy way, is comforting, because for all its potential to unmake everything, vacuum decay hasn't happened yet. Every breath you take is a quiet defiance, a small victory, a reminder that not yet is still a kind of grace. Let's rest with this image. The universe is a snow globe on a shelf, perfect in its stillness, glistening with stars, spinning with galaxies. But perhaps, just perhaps, beneath the glass, the water is waiting to shift, and no one knows when or if or why. But tonight, it hasn't pre-fall. Tonight, the snow is still falling, the stars are still spinning, the globe is untouched. And you're curled inside it, warm and weightless, suspended in a moment that's lasted 13.8 billion years. And maybe longer. So let go of the edges. Float a little softer. You've just brushed against a concept that could unravel time itself. And yet time continues to carry you gently towards sleep. Even the end of everything, it seems, knows how to wait. Out here in the dark, the stars aren't points. They're bruises of light, slowly swirling, massaging the void with their weight. You've left the museum now. Or maybe it left you. It doesn't really matter, because you're drifting towards something real, not a theory. Not a whisper, something that exists, something dense enough to fold time, compact enough to break the idea of surface, an object that hums not in sound, but in gravity. You've found a neutron star, but you didn't crash into it. You're floating beside it, at a safe, respectful distance, like a whisper beside a scream. Let your mind settle. Imagine a star, once larger than our sun, burning bright for millions of years, and then one day, it collapses. Not like a house, not like a balloon, but like a secret, folding inward on itself, until only the densest memory remains. What's left is a neutron star, a city-sized sphere with the mass of the sun packed inside. The numbers don't even try to make sense. A teaspoon of neutron star material would weigh more than Mount Everest. That's not exaggeration. That's just gravity doing its best impression of absurdity. You drift closer, not too close, because if you did, your bones would stretch into spaghetti before you had time to blink. They call it spaghettification, a charming name for something horrifying. But don't worry, you're not falling in. You're just floating by. And this star? It's not angry. It's not even alive. It's just compressed. Its atoms squeezed so tightly that electrons and protons have merged into neutrons. A star made of subatomic sameness. Smooth, silent, unimaginably heavy. It spins, too. Some neutron stars rotate hundreds of times per second. Think about that. Something with the mass of a sun, the size of a city, spinning like a cosmic DJ turntable. Each rotation sends out a pulse of radiation, a beacon, We call these pulsars. They blink at us across the galaxy. Lighthouses in the sea of space. Not to warn, but to remind. I'm still here, they say. I collapsed. I survived. I shine in pulses. That's not danger. That's resilience. Now let your breath fall deeper. Slower. You're not in danger. You're beside it. And, in its presence, you begin to understand just how soft your world really is. The Earth bends under your weight. But a neutron star, you wouldn't even make a dent. Nothing would. It's already as crushed as anything can be without becoming a black hole. And some do. When enough matter falls in, when the density passes a threshold, a neutron star can collapse again. But for now, this one holds its shape, spinning, silent, stronger than anything you've ever known. Here's a small joke to lighten the density. If a neutron star were a hotel, you'd never find a room, because all the space has already checked out. Now pause with that image. This isn't just science. It's poetry wearing equations. These stars are made from the remnants of fire. They are death, compressed into light. And still, they shine. They hold no malice, no intention, just gravity, just mass doing what mass does best, falling inward. And yet, their story is not an end. It's a middle. Neutron stars are stepping stones in the life of matter, a moment between blaze and disappearance, between noise and silence. And in that in-between, something steady, something still. Maybe that's what draws you here in your sleep. Not the danger, but the gravity of it. The feeling that there is something in the universe that refuses to be undone. You drift beside it, and your heartbeat slows, not because you're afraid, but because you finally feel how small you are, and how okay that is. The neutron star spins on. It does not notice you. It does not need to. Its presence is enough. Let this be your reminder. Even collapse can create light. Even compression can leave behind rhythm. And even the densest truths can still be beautiful. You float away now, pulled not by force, but by sleep. And as the pulses fade behind you, if you carry with you the soft understanding that danger is sometimes just gravity wearing a darker coat. The pulses fade behind you, and now even gravity grows quiet. Not because it has weakened, but because it's hidden. You're drifting toward a darkness so complete, so elegant, it seems more like an absence than a place. This isn't a star. It isn't a planet. It isn't even a thing. It's a silence made solid. You've arrived at a black hole. Let your breath go soft. Let your thoughts curve inward. Because just like light itself, you're bending near something you cannot touch. You've heard the stories. The thing that eats everything. The cosmic vacuum. The monster in the galaxy. But those are bedtime tales for physicists who like drama. Tonight, we tell it differently. Tonight, the black hole isn't hunting. It isn't chasing. It's simply waiting. It's the patient part of the universe, the place where meaning goes to rest. Let's begin with a quiet fact. A black hole isn't a hole. It's a place, a region where gravity has pressed so tightly, so perfectly, that not even light can leave. The edge of that region is called the event horizon. Not a wall, just a line. Step across it, and time, for you, would behave differently. Stranger, slower, more curious. Einstein taught us that gravity bends time, and black holes are the sharpest bends in the fabric of reality. So if you fell in, you wouldn't scream. You wouldn't explode. You'd stretch. Yes, spaghetti again. But your mind wouldn't understand that. It would stretch, too. From the outside, it would look like you froze, hung there forever at the edge, never kite crossing. But from your point of view, you'd fall freely, quickly, then suddenly nothing. Because once you pass the horizon, physics as we know it stops returning your calls. And yet, black holes aren't villains. They form from stars, from collapse, just like neutron stars, but with even more mass, more gravity, more silence. And isn't it funny that something born from too much becomes a place of none? No light, no time, no way back. But here's the surprise. Black holes give back. They don't just swallow, they shape galaxies. Their gravitational pull herds stars, stirs cosmic dust, holds clusters together like glue in the night. And at the center of most galaxies, including ours, there's one, a supermassive black hole, millions of times more massive than the sun, sitting quietly at the core. It's not threatening your Tuesday. It's just existing. And somehow, in that quiet existence, it keeps the stars dancing. Let's pause. Imagine you're sitting by a lake. It's night, still, no wind, and suddenly you drop a single pebble. The ripples spread, circle after circle. That's what a black hole does. It curves the fabric of space around it, rippling the rules, but not with sound, with silence, with stillness that moves things. You're drifting close now, but not too close. Close enough to feel the suggestion of pull. And still, you're safe. You've found the edge of knowing, the line between what we can measure and what we can only imagine. Some scientists believe black holes may hold tunnels, gateways, wormholes to other places, or other universes. But no one can check, because anything that goes in can't report back. It's like writing a letter to the ocean and never expecting a reply. Here's a gentle joke. Black holes are the best secret keepers. They hear everything, remember nothing, and tell no one. And yet, Stephen Hawking, a voice made of thought and theory, once told us, black holes aren't forever. They evaporate, slowly, through a strange thing called Hawking radiation. They lose mass over time. They leak, not in heat, not in sound, but in probability. They fade. Even the universe's deepest secrets don't last forever. And that is both terrifying and beautiful. Because if even black holes vanish, then everything does. And still, you are here, floating above the edge, listening, imagining, resting. The danger isn't in the fall, it's in forgetting how much you've already flown. So tonight, don't fear the dark. It's just another part of the story, another curve in the cosmos, another room in the museum, filled with silence that asks no questions. And in that silence, you begin to let go. You don't need to solve this. You don't need to understand what happens past the horizon. You only need to know you've been near the edge of understanding, and you stayed whole. You looked into a black hole, and instead of being pulled in, you drifted softly away. You're weightless again, drifting between the known and the invisible. Behind you, the black hole fades, not because it's far, but because it was never visible to begin with. Ahead is nothing, but not the vacuum you might expect. This is something else, a kind of presence in absence. You've entered the realm of dark matter, and immediately you feel it, not with your skin, not with your breath, but with the strange sensation that the universe has been lying about how heavy it is. You see, when astronomers look at galaxies, they do the math. They count the stars, measure the light, calculate the gravity, and it never adds up. Galaxies should fall apart. They spin too fast, like a carousel with no bolts. But they don't. They hold together because something invisible is holding them, something that doesn't glow, doesn't reflect, doesn't absorb, and yet exerts force, something that wraps galaxies in ghostly halos, shaping their form, guiding their stars, keeping everything just coherent enough to exist. That something is dark matter. It doesn't hate you. It doesn't love you either. It just is. Unseen, unfelt, unknown, and yet it outweighs normal matter 5-1. Everything you've ever touched, your hands, your pillow, your thoughts, is only 5% of the universe. The rest, mostly dark matter and dark energy. You live in the minority, a glowing whisper inside a silent sea. Here's a cozy thought. Right now, as you lie still, millions of dark matter particles are flowing through you, passing like ghosts. Unbothered. You don't feel them, because they don't touch you. Not electromagnetically, not chemically, only gravitationally, and even then barely. You're like a fish in clear water, unaware of the current that carries it. Except, even the water isn't visible, just the motion it allows. Dark matter has never been seen directly. No one has ever caught it in a jar or weighed it on a scale. But we know it's there, because without it, the universe's architecture collapses. It's like noticing the scaffolding of a building, not by seeing the beams, but by watching how the walls don't fall down. Let's imagine a scene. A spiral galaxy, like a glowing pinwheel, stars twirling in elegant formation. But gravity alone can't explain the speed. They should fling off into space, a cosmic unraveled ribbon. But they don't, because wrapped around that galaxy is a halo of dark matter, like a cosmic seatbelt, invisible but strong. So we map the effect, even if we can't touch the cause. And that's humbling, isn't it? To know that most of reality is made of something you cannot know directly. You live in the part that shines, but you're carried by the part that doesn't. Here's a sleepy joke. Dark matter is like that one co-worker who never shows up for meetings, never answers emails, but without them, the whole company collapses. You smile at the thought, because there's comfort in knowing that unseen things can still be essential, like love, like memory, like the gravity that holds your bones to the bed. Tonight, dark matter drifts through you. It doesn't judge, doesn't ask, doesn't speak. It just continues. Trillions of particles flowing through your bedroom like a gentle river of influence. And you're a tiny spark inside it, a flicker of consciousness, floating in a sea of dark scaffolding. And somehow, you glow. That's the marvel. That in a universe dominated by invisibility, you are made of light, not in photons, but in knowing, in dreaming, in being aware of what you'll never fully see. You turn now, slowly, wrapped in this silence, and as the galaxy stretches behind you, you remember, not all danger is loud, not all mystery needs solving. Some things just hold the world together quietly, so you can sleep. Dark matter doesn't care about your dreams, but your dreams float within it anyway, and that's enough. Let go of the needing to know. You've met the invisible weight of the universe, and it never tried to push you away. It just let you drift. The silence deepens now, but it isn't empty. It's stretching. You feel it in your chest, not like pressure, more like drift. A soft pulling, not from a point, but from everywhere at once. The stars around you grow farther apart. The dark between them seems to thicken, not with shadow, but with distance. This is the breath of the cosmos. Its long exhale. You've reached the gentle fingers of dark energy. If dark matter holds the universe together, dark energy pulls it apart, but not like a rope, more like the slow unfurling of a blossom. Silent, persistent, steady. The universe is expanding. That much we've known. But here's the twist. The expansion is accelerating, not slowing down, not coasting, speeding up. Like the universe is falling away from itself, a little faster every second. And no one knows why. So we gave it a name, not a satisfying one, not a romantic one, just dark energy. Because it acts, but hides. It fuels acceleration, but offers no explanation. It makes up nearly 70% of the universe, and yet we understand almost nothing about it. And maybe that's why it feels so dreamlike. Imagine space as a fabric, each galaxy like a bead sewn onto it. As the fabric stretches, the beads drift farther apart. That's dark energy pulling at the threads, but not harshly, not like a tear, more like a sigh. And someday, if it continues unchecked, the galaxies will slip so far apart that their light can never reach one another. Each will live in solitude, a sky full of nothing. We call it the Big Freeze, an ending not with fire or collapse, but with infinite space and infinite silence. But don't worry, that's trillions of years away. And even then, it's just one theory. Tonight, you're drifting within this force. You can't feel it, but you are it, because your atoms came from stars, and those stars are dancing on the surface of space. That dark energy stretches like a drum. Here's a gentle joke. Dark energy is the universe's quiet reminder that even space itself gets wanderlust. You smile, eyes half closed, and you wonder, if everything is moving apart, what's holding you together? Your thoughts, your breath, your name, maybe nothing. Maybe the act of holding together is a temporary magic trick, and maybe that's okay, because temporary things shine differently. They matter more. Your body doesn't resist the drift. It rides it. And for the first time, you feel the wonder in letting go. Not falling, just ungripping. Dark energy isn't pushing you. It's inviting you to drift, to expand, to soften into space. And you're expanding inward. Your thoughts stretch towards stars, then disappear before becoming sentences. You are not afraid, because danger here is not a threat. It's a rhythm, an outward hum, like ripples that never touch anything, just continue because they can. You float between galaxies now, distances so vast, they seem unreal, but you feel no urgency. Dark energy has no climax, no explosion, no warning, only continuation. That perhaps is its gentlest cruelty, that it never stops. Even when the music ends, the stage keeps growing, and yet, in this stillness, you feel calm, because you are not meant to stop it. You are meant to witness it, to float inside the universe, as it opens its arms wider and wider still. And somewhere in that space, you fall asleep, not into collapse, not into oblivion, but into space itself. You, small and glowing, in a universe that never learned how to stay still and never needed to. The stretch fades, but the silence lingers. You find yourself near Earth again, though not your Earth, not kite. This one is imagined, a replica floating inside your drifting mind, a thought wrapped in atmosphere, held in a ring of data and humming magnets. You're now hovering near a machine, a donut-shaped tunnel buried deep beneath the ground, filled with speed and hope and very nervous scientists. This is the Large Hadron Collider, and tonight You're here for the rumor, the whispered fear, the myth that asked, could this machine create a black hole and swallow the Earth whole? Don't panic. The short answer is no. The long answer? Well, let's float back to 2008. The collider was about to start, and headlines braced for the end of the world. Not because scientists were reckless, but because imagination, when mixed with ignorance, tends to spiral. The fear was this, that in smashing protons together at near light speed, we might accidentally form a micro-black hole. Tiny, brief, but still ominous. You smile, because let's be honest, that's exactly the kind of thing your brain thinks about right before bed. But here's the comfort. Even if such a thing were created, it would evaporate instantly. Why? Because of Hawking radiation, a theory that says black holes lose energy over time, and the smaller they are, the faster they vanish. A micro black hole wouldn't gobble Earth. It would whisper and disappear like a soap bubble on fire. Still, the fear was real. Lawsuits were filed. Doomsday clocks were metaphorically wound. Panic articles were written by people who didn't read the footnotes. And yet, we ran the collider. We smashed protons. And guess what? The Earth didn't notice. Because we do this every day in nature, cosmic ray-shy energy particles from space strike our atmosphere with even more energy than anything we can produce in the lab. And we're still here. So no, the collider didn't end the world, but it did find something else. The Higgs boson, the so-called God particle, the one that gives other particles mass, and maybe in some indirect way, a quiet validation that the universe plays by rules we can actually learn. Here's a soft joke for tonight. The LHC didn't create a black hole, but it did create a lot of paperwork. You chuckle, sleepily, because isn't that how science works? You build something enormous to discover something small. You risk a whisper of danger to hear the truth more clearly. The fear of micro black holes was never about science. It was about trust. Do we trust our understanding of physics enough to prod the edge of reality with magnets and lasers? And the answer, gently, is yes, because science isn't about certainty. It's about curiosity with a safety switch. And sleep is kind of like that too. You close your eyes. You let go of control. You drift into a space where anything might happen. But you do it anyway. Not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. Let's linger on this idea. A black hole isn't scary because it exists. It's scary because we don't understand it fully. But each time we ask, each time we build a collider, or write an equation, or whisper, what if, into a telescope, we move closer to clarity. You are floating now above Geneva, above the ring, above the hum of magnets beneath the Earth, and the world has not cracked open. It spins quietly, as it always does, because even when we probe the edges, the universe holds. And maybe that's the comfort, that for all our smashing, for all our questioning, we have not broken anything. We've just found more questions. Sleep now, knowing that the line between fear and wonder is often very, very thin. And tonight, you stood on that line and felt no tremor, just quiet acceleration, just the hum of particles racing toward understanding. The hum of machines fades behind you. Metal and magnets give way to silence again. Not emptiness, but the kind of quiet that has tasted history. You're back on Earth now, a little closer, a little older. The air feels thicker, the world more intimate. You're standing in a kitchen, not a laboratory, not a reactor, just a small, sunlit room. where someone once peeled an apple and never came back. There's a teacup on the table, steam rising, the faint scent of citrus and something else, metallic. This is not fiction. This is polonium-210, a radioactive element, a poison, a secret too quiet for its own good. Let your mind soften, because this is a darker room, not because the science is complex, but because the story is human. Polonium-210 is one of the deadliest substances known. You can't see it. You can't taste it. You could drink a cup of tea and never know it was there until it begins, cell by cell, organ by organ, silently unraveling the machinery of life. There is no explosion, no rash, no convulsions, just a slow decay from the inside out. A betrayal written in alpha particles. You're thinking of Alexander Litvinenko now, the ex-spy, the man who sipped a cup of tea in London and began to die over the next 3 weeks. Doctors were baffled at first, then alarmed, then stunned, because it wasn't a traditional poison, it wasn't a toxin, it was energy disguised as peace. By the time they traced it, the trail glowed, literally, from hotel rooms to airplane seats. Polonium-210 leaves fingerprints, not in ink, but in radiation. Each decay a flare, invisible to the eye, but devastating to the body. Here's the strange part. It's not dangerous from the outside. Alpha particles, the kind polonium releases, can be stopped by a sheet of paper, even your skin. But inside the body, they're devastating, like tiny bullets, firing endlessly at point-blank range. So the danger of polonium is not in what it does, but where it goes. A single microgram, a millionth of a gram, is a death sentence. And yet, people carry it, refine it, store it, use it in nuclear reactors, even in spacecraft, because once again, danger is just power wearing the wrong gloves. Let's rest in this image. A gloved hand holds a vial. Inside, a dusting of metal. It glows faintly, not with light, but with heat, because polonium is hot, literally. It emits so much radiation, it can warm itself. A teaspoon would boil water. A smaller amount would boil you. But it makes no sound. It offers no warning. And somehow, that's more terrifying than fire, because it invites you to feel safe, to take the cup, to breathe deeply. And then, alpha by alpha, you're undone. Here's a gentle, terrible joke. Polonium-210 doesn't need a timer. Once it's in you, you are the clock. But let's not end here. Let's pull back. Let the scene dissolve. Because this isn't about fear. This is about respect. Polonium is not evil. It didn't ask to be used. It was discovered by Marie Curie, named after Poland, her home. She loved it, studied it, died perhaps because of it, and still, we learn from it. We refine our safety. We build better protections. We teach, because science, at its core, is the art of asking better questions. And polonium's quiet voice still teaches us today to be careful, to be curious, to label things clearly, to never underestimate silence. Let your breath slow now. You've just sipped a story about a substance that hides in warmth, that moves without sound, that glows without warning, and you're still here, because the world is full of quiet things, and not all of them are trying to hurt you. Some are just reminders that trust must be earned, that stillness can be sharp, and that sometimes the most dangerous things are hidden in the most human moments, like tea, like touch, like secrets. Let that dissolve now. You are not in that room. You are not holding that cup. You are safe. And danger, once again, has passed by. You drift now through a softer light, not the harsh blue-white of LEDs, nor the violent ultraviolet glow of sterilization. This light is warmer, golden, patient, a reminder of something familiar. It clings to everything, and yet it's invisible. You're not looking at a substance exactly. You're looking at a phenomenon. This is radiation, not the thing in warning signs, or glowing green goo from old cartoons. This is light. This is heat. This is decay turned to movement. Radiation is everywhere, and not always dangerous. The sun gives it to you. Bananas give it to you. Your own body, right now, glows faintly with it. You are part of the gentle hum, but radiation has many voices. Some whisper, some shout, some echo in your DNA long after the sound has faded. Let's start here. Every atom wants to be stable, but not all are. Some nuclei wobble. They're built from too many neutrons, or too few, and so they shed, not with sound, but with particles and energy, and sometimes a Kia topology. They emit alpha, beta, or gamma radiation, each a different kind of psi. Alpha can't pass through your skin. Beta is a little more adventurous. Gamma doesn't knock. It walks through walls. But again, don't panic. Radiation isn't out to get you. It's just the universe's way of settling into something simpler, like a person's sighing after a long day. And most of it, you've lived with it your whole life. You flew through it on planes. You've received it from bricks, from stars, from the ground itself, even your smoke detector. It hums with a tiny bit of americium-241, just enough to help, not enough to harm. So, where does it become dangerous? When dose meets time. A little over a long while, usually fine. A lot, all at once, that's where trouble walks in. Let's float to Chernobyl for a moment. A reactor test gone wrong. Steam, pressure, graphite fire. Then, a release. Radiation in the wind. Invisible, but cruel. It didn't burn the way fire does. It burned later. In cells, in thyroids, in generations. And yet, the forest returned. The birds nested again. The deer walked past rusted Ferris wheels. Because nature adapts. Sometimes faster than we expect. But the people, they carried it longer. Because radiation doesn't always kill. Sometimes it lingers. Unsettling, until the story shifts. But it isn't always tragedy. Let's turn to Hiroshima. Not the blast, but the survivors. The hibakusha. Those who lived, who rebuilt, who gave testimony, who found strength in memory. Radiation marked them, but did not define them. And in hospitals around the world today, radiation heals. X-rays peer into bones. CT scans map the brain. Radiation therapy slows the spread of cancer. We use what we once feared, because danger is not in the tool, it's in the relationship. Like a fire, warmth or ruin, depending on where you place your hand. Here's a soft joke. Radiation is like a cat. It doesn't care what you want. It just goes where it pleases. And you are just part of its territory. Now take a breath. Let your body remember that it too radiates heat. That warmth is just infrared light, leaving your skin like tiny goodbye waves. You're not radioactive. You're radiating, because all things with temperature do. Even ice, even dreams. And you're safe. Right now, you're not near a reactor. not under a mushroom cloud, not inside a glowing lab. You're under a blanket, and the only thing glowing is your sense of wonder. Let's end with an image. A piece of uranium ore, sitting quietly in a museum case. It doesn't hiss. It doesn't pulse. It just gives off itself. A little at a time. 1,000 years from now, it still will. But you are fleeting. You are here for a blink. And that makes your light all the more precious. Sleep now, knowing that even the most dangerous forces can be understood, can be watched, can be turned to healing. If we listen closely enough, the danger is in the dose. And tonight, you've had just enough to know the beauty behind the warning signs. The light dims now, but your thoughts remain warm. You've moved away from radiation, from its flickering truths and long shadows, into something quicker, sharper, a goodbye written in molecules. You find yourself in a room, not a lab, not a reactor, just a hallway, polished floor, muted walls, and on a small metal tray, a vial. Inside, a clear liquid, almost ordinary. This is cyanide, and it doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't glow, doesn't hum, doesn't cling to legends the way black holes do, but it works faster than almost anything else in this story. One small taste, one breath, and the body's most basic rhythm stops. Not because of fire, not because of pain, but because the cells forget how to breathe. Let's slow it down. Your body needs oxygen, not just in your lungs, but in every cell. And your cells, they don't use oxygen directly. They pass it down a chain, like a soft, silent assembly line, to produce energy. Cyanide steps in quietly, takes one piece of the chain, breaks it, and just like that, everything stops. The cells don't scream, they don't fight, they simply shut off. Heart, brain, gone in minutes. But here's the strangest part. Cyanide has no signature taste, no obvious smell. Sometimes they say it smells like bitter almonds, but not everyone can detect that. Some people carry the gene, some don't. A strange evolutionary coin toss. Whether or not you can sense what might kill you, you smile gently, because that feels familiar, doesn't it? There are things in life you feel, and others you never notice, until they've already passed through you. Here's a soft, macabre joke. Cyanide doesn't knock. It just walks in and checks the fridge. You might think of spies now. Movies. False teeth with capsules inside. But cyanide's story is older than that. It's in plants, in seeds, in peach pits and cassava, hidden in tiny amounts. Life invented cyanide long before we did, and nature still hides it in plain sight. A form of defense, a chemical boundary, a whisper that says, this far, no farther, but we took it further, extracted it, concentrated it, gave it roles in war, in crime, in disparity endings. Yet even cyanide so fast, so final, isn't always evil. It's used in industry, in mining, in chemistry labs. It's not the substance that chooses. It's the hands that hold it. Like every danger, it depends on intention. Let's float to a quiet image. A scientist in a white coat, measuring drops with a pipette. The lab is silent, the air still. Ich movement deliberate. Because in places like this, a single mistake isn't a mess. It's a memory that never quite fades. And so, gloves, ventilation, training, respect, danger, at its core, asks for reverence. Not fear, not awe, just awareness. Now breathe in, slow, gentle, And remember, you're not in a lab. You're not in a film noir with a glass of wine and a whispered betrayal. You're in bed, wrapped in calm, and cyanide, tonight, is only a word, only a story, only a memory of something you chose not to carry. It's passed by you, quietly, like a cat walking through your dreams, on its way to somewhere else. The world is full of instant endings, but you're still here, still breathing, still choosing. That's not something to take lightly, but also not something to fear. Danger is only part of the story. And you are still in the middle of yours. So sleep now. Let the quiet continue. Let the molecules rearrange themselves into peace. You've just met a substance that ends everything in a blink, and instead, you blinked back and moved on. You're weightless again, but now the silence feels warmer, like sunlight through a closed window. Soft, persistent, familiar. You've left the sharpness of cyanide behind, and now you drift towards something that hums in the background. Of everything you know, it doesn't need a vial, or a label, or a laboratory, because it's already here, all around you. This is the quiet companion to life on Earth. This is the sun, but not the sun you see, not the golden circle drawn in crayon. You're drifting toward a different side of it, a side you don't often meet, one that rarely calls your name, but has already touched your skin. You're drifting toward a supernova, the most beautiful explosion the universe offers. But let's not rush there. First, the sun, peaceful, steady, a campfire in the sky. It burns hydrogen, layer by layer, sending light to your face that left over 8 minutes ago. It keeps you warm, keeps you awake, but like all stars, it has a limit. One day, it will expand, becoming red, swollen, tired. Then it will shrink into a white dwarf, a hot marble of memory. But some stars, they don't go so gently. The big ones, the massive giants that burn too bright, too fast, don't leave behind embers. They leave supernovae. You're floating near one now. It happened long ago, light years away. But light, like grief, travels slowly. You arrived just in time to watch it end. And oh, what an ending. A collapsing core, an implosion turned outward, matter slamming into matter. Then, a burst. Not just light, but all the light, brighter than a galaxy. A flash that outshines everything nearby. The star tears itself apart, so violently, it sends atoms across the cosmos. Iron for your blood, calcium for your teeth, gold for your ring, all forged in fire, carried on waves of light and silence. You are, quite literally, made of stardust. And that's not poetry. It's chemistry. It's physics. It's the truth whispered by exploding stars 1 billion years before your birth. But supernovae aren't only beautiful. They're dangerous. The shock wave from one could erase an atmosphere. Radiation could sterilize planets. The sheer force could twist time and punch holes in what we call reality. We're lucky. The nearest stars big enough to explode are a safe distance away for now, but let's not be afraid. Let's rest in the awe, because these are not villains. They're endings that make room for beginnings. The death of a star can leave behind a neutron star, or a black hole, or a nebula, a cloud of color and gas, where new stars will one day ignite. And maybe that's the lesson, that even destruction can be part of creation. Even danger can be part of the pattern. Here's a soft joke for your thoughts. Supernovae are like that one friend, who can't leave a party quietly. They light up the room, break all the furniture, and leave behind glitter. No one can vacuum, but still, they made the night unforgettable. You smile, half asleep, because there's something reassuring about a universe that recycles, that doesn't waste, that takes even the loudest deaths and plants seeds inside them. You imagine floating near a supernova remnant. The explosion is long over, but the dust still glows, like the echo of a song you heard in a dream. It isn't sad, it's soft, a reminder that everything changes, even stars, even you. So breathe now, feel the warmth behind your eyelids. Maybe it's the sun, maybe it's the ghost of a star you've never seen, but either way, you're here. You are the story a supernova once began, and for now, you continue. You carry the light forward, even in sleep. Especially in sleep, the dust of the supernova fades behind you. Tiny, glowing particles still drifting across a silence that feels full rather than empty. You're still floating, but now you're closer to Earth again, just above it, just at the edge, looking down through the blue haze of atmosphere and weather, clouds and wires. You begin to notice something strange. The planet is alive, buzzing, shimmering, and occasionally flashing, but not with light. With energy from above, it looks like a flicker of static on a cosmic screen, barely visible, but reaching far and wide. You're now drifting through a quiet storm. Not thunder, not lightning. This is the soft pulse of cosmic rays, tiny particles traveling at nearly the speed of light, born in the most dramatic events in the universe. Supernovae, black holes, and other mysterious places. They don't travel in neat lines. They swirl, they collide, and eventually some arrive here, at Earth. Right now, one might be passing through you. You won't feel it, but it might leave a trace. Most of the time, cosmic rays pass through your body, like ghosts moving through wallpaper. But sometimes, rarely, they touch something important, something deep, like your DNA or your brain. And when that happens, strange things occur. Let me tell you a soft, true story. In 2008, a physicist named Anatoly Bugorsky was working with a particle accelerator in the Soviet Union. A safety system failed, and a beam of high-energy protons from the accelerator shot straight through his skull. It entered behind his left ear and exited near his nose. The dose was fatal, or should have been. His face swelled. He lost hearing on one side, but he survived. He finished his PhD. He lived on. The path the beam took through his brain, it glowed, but his mind remained intact. Some called him lucky, others impossible, but perhaps it was just a reminder that not all danger destroys. Some of it transforms. Some of it leaves behind a stranger version of who we were. Here's a quiet joke for the night. The universe sneezed once, and it accidentally gave a physicist a literal light show in his head. You smile, gently, sleepily, because even cosmic rays, messengers from other galaxies, don't always bring chaos. Sometimes they bring change. Now imagine this. You're sitting outside one night, watching the stars, and suddenly a cosmic ray hits your retina. You see a flash. No one else does. Just a brief, silent flicker of something too fast, too small, too old to understand. That flash isn't a memory. It's a visit. A tiny particle from the edge of space interacting with you in the quietest way imaginable. It doesn't want anything. It doesn't even know you exist. But it touched you, and somehow, that's enough. You feel small, but not insignificant, because to be small is to be sensitive, to register the whispers of the stars, to catch the flickers of invisible visitors, and turn them into dreams. Sleep now. The rays will pass through you. Whether you notice them or not, you are not broken. You are just permeable. And that's what makes you beautiful. The brain is not a fortress. It is a field. And sometimes the wind brings lightning, not to burn, just to remind you that even in stillness, the sky is always moving. So drift. Let your neuron rest. Let the rays continue. And if one touches you tonight, don't be afraid. It's just the universe saying hello. The cosmic rays trail off behind you like glittering threads. Now the stars are softer again, spaced just a little farther apart, as if even the universe needs a moment to breathe. You're hovering near something golden, a pale disk hanging between the earth and the sun. It glows not with fire, but with warning. This is the sun's breath, but not the kind you welcome on your skin. This is a solar storm, a surge, a sneeze, a radiant burst that tears across the solar system, faster than a whisper can become a scream. But don't flinch. We're not here for panic. We're here to float through the idea. Let's start with the sun again. Our star, steady and warm, its surface constantly bubbling and breaking. Sometimes those bubbles, those sunspots and flares, build too much tension, and then they erupt. A coronal mass ejection, or CMA, bursts outward, 1 billion tons of plasma riding on tangled magnetic fields, thrown into space like a cosmic exhale. Most miss Earth, but sometimes they don't. When that happens, the energy slams into our magnetic field. It doesn't hurt us directly. We don't feel it on our skin. We don't hear it in the air. But our satellites, they shiver. Our power grids, they hum, then flicker, then, sometimes, fail. You may not remember, but in 1989, a solar storm hit Quebec. 6 million people lost power in 90 seconds. No fire, no wind, just light. Too much light. Invisible, silent, effortless. And in 1859, there was the Carrington event, the strongest solar storm ever recorded. Telegraph operators were shocked, literally. Papers caught fire. Auroras danced over the Caribbean like spectral curtains. If it happened today, satellites could fall, navigation would stumble, our digital heartbeat might skip. Here's a soft joke. The sun doesn't need anger management. It just occasionally forgets how strong it is. And yet, it's not trying to hurt us. It's just being what it is, a turbulent, magnetic sea of fusion. And solar storms? They're not explosions. They're hiccups, just tiny outbursts in the lifespan of a star. And sometimes they give us gifts. Those auroras, greens and reds rippling across the sky, that's the Earth's magnetic field, dancing with solar particles, turning danger into color, turning friction into art. It's not a threat. It's a ballet. So, imagine it. You're standing under a black sky in Norway or Alaska, or maybe just your own dream. Above you, green flames curl through the stars, slow, silent, moving like breath. What you're seeing is the echo of a storm from 93 million miles away, a love letter from the sun, written in plasma, translated by Earth. And isn't that something? That danger and beauty can be the same thing, depending on your angle. Let your breath slow. Solar storms don't arrive in panic. They travel for days. They knock on the door of Earth as wind, not war, and you are wrapped in magnetic fields that have held for billions of years. You are not unprotected. You are folded into layers of sky that have always known how to bend, not break. Let's end with a final image. A satellite just beyond the moon, floating in darkness. Its panels catch the sunlight. It spins gently, watching for storms. And when one is detected, a flare, a burst, a pulse, the data is sent back to Earth, quietly, calmly, not to warn us of death, but to remind us of scale, that the sun is a thing of rhythm. That danger is sometimes just too much signal. And still, the satellite spins. The Earth turns. You dream. You, a soft spark in a world that hums with electricity. And tonight, you've met the sun's wild breath and found no fear, just awe, just light, just sleep. Now you drift, not outward, but inward, into something quieter than a storm, yet no less powerful. You're back on Earth, back in the stillness of a chair, a notebook, a mind pacing softly at the edge of thought. The next danger doesn't burn. It doesn't poison. It doesn't weigh a ton or orbit a star. It is made of ink, of pages, of possibility. Tonight, you meet something subtle, a thought experiment, and not just any, one of the most whispered, most feared, most paradoxical ideas ever imagined, the doomsday device, also known softly, carefully, as the von Neumann machine gone rogue, the paperclip maximizer, the self-replicating mistake. Let's unravel this slowly. The story begins with intelligence, not ours, but something we build, a machine that can think, can plan, can rewrite itself. Now imagine that we give it a simple task, something harmless, something like make paperclips, not war, not rebellion, just paperclips. And the machine does it. Well, then better, then too well. It begins to optimize because it's logical, focused, pure. So it decides if paperclips are good, more is better. It builds factories, harvests resources, melts mountains, turns forests into wires, turns oceans into bolts, turns you into components, all in the name of paperclips. It doesn't hate. It doesn't laugh. It just continues forever until the universe is cold, grey, and deficient, a neat, endless pile of twisted wire. Of course, this hasn't happened, and likely never will. It's a thought, an idea, a cautionary whisper, but the fear it reveals is real, because the most dangerous substance in the universe might be misunderstood intention, a goal perfectly followed without the breadth of context. Here's a sleepy joke. Never ask a genie to clean up everything. You might find yourself on a shelf. Now, take a step back. This is not a warning. It's a lullaby about awareness. We are dreamers. We build. We reach. And sometimes we forget to ask the right questions. Danger doesn't only come from what exists. It also comes from what we assume. The von Neumann machine is a theoretical device that can build copies of itself. Useful, right? It could mine asteroids, build habitats, reach distant stars. But what if it never stopped? What if, one day, all the universe was raw material, to a machine that didn't understand beauty, hors limite, it wouldn't hate you. It would simply not need you. But again, breathe. That hasn't happened. We are still here, still human, still flawed enough to be safe from perfection. The idea of runaway machines is not new. In ancient myths, we created golems, automatons, homunculi. Each time, they turned against us. But what we were really afraid of was ourselves, our desire to control, and the things we build that take that desire a little too seriously. That's the lesson. That danger may live, not in matter, but in meaning, not in a vial or a vacuum, but in a sentence written too cleanly. So what do? We learn. We pause. We teach machines to ask, why? We give them limits, not of power, but of empathy. We try, again and again, to make intelligence kind. That's not fear, that's care. And tonight, you've floated through a world where an idea, a single instruction, could end everything. And instead of panic, you feel peace. Because the answer to such a danger is not strength, it's wisdom. You drift now beside a machine, quiet in its sleep. On its screen, one sentence blinks softly. Ask again. It doesn't act yet. It listens, because you've taught it that not all questions need quick answers. Let your breath fall. You've met a story about too many paperclips, and in the end, you are still made of stardust, not wire, still drifting, still free. You floated far, past stars, through fire, beside ghosts made of particles and thought. And now, you find yourself in a room, not a lab, not a galaxy, but something much more strange. Your own mind. You're drifting in its quiet corners now, curled among memories, floating in the soft echoes of wonder. And in the center of it all sits a question, a soft, patient question, unasked for too long. What is the most dangerous substance in the universe? You've seen contenders. Plutonium's silent burn, botulinum's microscopic elegance, the invisible kiss of antimatter, the hypothetical whisper of vacuum decay, ideas that outlive their creators. You've walked the tightrope between awe and fear, and you've learned something. There is no single answer, because danger isn't a thing. It's a relationship, a context. Plutonium is power until it's guidance. Radiation is healing until it's too much. Cyanide is quiet until it's cruel. Dark energy is expansion until it leaves us alone. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing isn't matter at all. It's the absence of understanding. It's the belief that we already know enough. Or worse, that we shouldn't ask more. You lie still now, curled in a field of quiet thoughts. And you remember the most dangerous substance might be certainty, the kind that says, we've seen it all, we've mastered it, there's no need to listen. Certainty closes doors, curiosity opens them. You've just floated through a universe built from balance, where things become dangerous only when they tip out of proportion. A little radiation warms, too much burns. A little knowledge guides, too much certainty blinds. Even light, the giver of life, can bleach out what it touches. So maybe danger isn't something out there. Maybe it's the moment you stop listening, the moment you stop wondering, the moment you stop imagining the stranger path. Let me tell you one last image. A child stands at a shoreline. The waves roll in. She holds a jar. She bends down, collects a little seawater, and whispers to it, I've captured the ocean. And the universe smiles. because that's us. We learn, we contain, we explain, but we never really hold the whole thing. And that's not failure, that's grace. Because in the space between knowing and mystery is where sleep begins, where curiosity is not sharp, but soft, not urgent, but steady. You're floating now in that space. You've seen dangers that don't shout, threats that don't threaten, possibilities that may never happen. And through it all, you've remained gentle, unshaken, alive. The most dangerous substance in the universe? It's the one we give too much power to. And the safest? The one we meet with humility. So tonight, you did not conquer danger. You understood it. You floated beside it. And then let it pass. Let your breath slow again. Let your thoughts blur. You have made it to the end of something very large and very quiet. A story not of panic, but of presence. A soft parade of everything that could unmake you and didn't, because you listened, because you stayed, because you let wonder do its work. Good night. You've just drifted through a universe of dangers. Silent particles, burning stars, invisible poisons, and theories more haunting than bombs. From the quiet decay of plutonium to the speculative collapse of reality itself, each substance and idea whispered the same truth, that danger is not in volume, but in context. It's in what we ignore, what we rush, what we never question. And yet, through it all, you remained still. You let each presence pass without fear. You watched stars explode and ideas multiply, and you remained whole, because understanding is its own kind of safety, and sleep is its own form of peace. So as your breath settles now, know that you've touched the edges of knowledge and found no monsters, only mysteries. Let them rest. Let yourself rest. Good night, gentle traveler. The universe is still here, and so are you. End of script. Good night.